on every step of your journey. Congratulations, and now I will ask all the families and friends to join me in giving a big hand to the graduating class. Thank you. I know that he is going to give a good speech, so I'm not going to wait for his speech. I will give him the gift before.
I had requested a step stool, but I see they didn't bring that. Dean Jane. Assistant Dean Cissy Jones, Mr. Pizarro, distinguished guests, family members, faculty, the EMP staff, EMP 68, last but not least, EMP 67. Buenas tardes. Como parte del programa inaugural EMBA, enfocado en América Latina, creí que sería apropiado comenzar este mensaje en español. Me siento profundamente conmovido y honrado en representar a mis compañeros de EMP 67 en este día tan importante. ¿Cómo yo no hablo español? Obviamente necesite ayuda con esta parte del mensaje. Mis buenos amigos Paco y Nico me han enseñado algo de español durante estos 2 años, pero pensé que las palabras que ellos me han enseñado no serían del agrado de todos los aquí presentes. Ustedes se preguntarán cómo alguien de Japón fue seleccionado para representar a la clase de América Latina. Pero lo que puedo decir es que haré lo mejor en representar la esencia del EMP 67 y compartir historias que han sucedido durante este viaje de 2 años para que nuestras familias y otros miembros de la audiencia aprendan más sobre nuestra experiencia. For those of you who don't speak Spanish, you may be wondering what I just said, and I haven't a clue. But I'll be sure to get a translation and send it to you by email. What I said at the very beginning was I thought it was appropriate to open the remarks in Spanish as the inaugural Latin American program, and so I thought it might be appropriate to start that way. So, what a day! I imagine there's some mixed emotions out there, feelings of accomplishment, glad to have your life back, sad to see it end. You know, I was just talking to a couple folks the other day in the class, and there was a sense of relief, you know, and it resonated with everybody. And at the same time, there was also a sense of emptiness that also resonated with everybody. And I think we'll be feeling that. You know, especially since we won't see each other on a monthly basis anymore. Recall that our journey started in Miami, and everybody probably had those same feelings. Excitement and anxiety. I'm assuming that that same excitement and anxiety existed with EMP 68. You know, our classroom, it wasn't even built yet. And we spent our first week in a ballroom. Hotel suites, they were our study rooms actually. On our first day, I spanned the room and realized that the MBA experience, it wouldn't be about the diploma we're about to receive today. And nor would it be about the many concepts that we learned over the past 2 years from the wonderful faculty. It was about the people. It was always about the people. I'll give you an example. One of my fondest memories was our very first week. We were playing the gas station game in Professor Renahan's class. This was a prize competition game that really illustrated the merits of human behavior. Needless to say, especially with Latin American blood, emotions ran high. But at the end, we all learned something from each other, I would like to think. Now, most of us, I think, would treat this as a game. Not our class. Not our class. After the completion of this game, my good friend, Jacques Albagli, he asked to speak to me. He was on the opposing team. You know, he came up to me and he gave me a funny look. And you know, he took a step closer to me. And you know, this was my first indoctrination into the Latin American culture, because Latin American folks are very warm. But you know, I'm Japanese. You may not see that, but I am. For those of you in the back. And you know, Japanese people, we don't like this invasion of space. You know, it's like, whoa. You know, but he kept walking closer to me, and I think he cornered me, and I'm like, okay, you got me. And you know, what he did was, he embraced me, he gave me a big hug, you know, and if you know Jacques too, he's got a little scruff here, and he'll bury his face right into yours, and he looked at me, gave me a kiss on the cheek, you know, again, I was like, whoa, what's going on here? But then he looked at me, grabbed me by the arms, and said, you know, Toshi, today, we're much better friends than we were yesterday. And then, you know, I'll never forget that moment, the very first week. It was very poignant, and you know, again, it was about the people. Speaking about people, you're probably wondering in the audience, who is EMP 67? Well, EMP 67 is a wonderful collection of people from a litany of many countries. And I'd love to give you a bio on everybody, because everybody has a unique story and a really neat journey to tell. But obviously, I don't have that time. So let me tell you about us as a group. We're 44 people, 44 strong. We represent Honduras, Chile, El Salvador, Venezuela, Peru, Brazil, the US, Paraguay, Colombia, Palestine, Japan, Guatemala, Nicaragua, France, Dominican Republic, Cuba, Panama, Mexico, Albania, India, and the 17 countries that Carlos Radulovich is from. But perhaps the most foreign land of them all is one named Kingsport, Tennessee. We have approximately 12 graduates that are part of a family-owned business. We have 10 CEOs/presidents of companies. We are the true representation of the American dream, the Latin American dream. The depth and breadth of our education was significantly enhanced by the experiences that we shared with each other. But despite the many accomplishments of EMP 67, you would never know that from our day-to-day interactions. Because our class, we tried our best to carry ourselves with class, dignity, and grace, but most importantly, with humility. I'll give you another example. Unlike EMP 68, who met every other week, we met once a month. One class weekend, I approached my good friend, Marco Baldocchi, and asked him how his month was. He said, yeah, you know, I purchased 4 magazines, which I thought was sort of an odd response. So I said, well, you know, I purchased a couple magazines too. Let me show you. They're in my computer bag. And he was sort of embarrassed. And he's like, no, Toshi, I'm getting into the publishing business. I've purchased 4 companies, 4 magazine companies. But you would never have guessed that. I mean, he was quite embarrassed to even say it. But it just showed the humility in the class that he carried himself with in our day-to-day interactions. And you have a lot of these types of stories within our class. But, admittedly, we are a quirky class, and at times we're not the easiest to embrace. My only explanation is that our class treats each other as a family, and we protect our own, because nothing's more important than our family. And speaking of families, to those of you in the audience, you have lived what we have lived, and in many ways have sacrificed more than we have throughout the course of these 2 years. And on behalf of both the EMP 67 and 68, we salute you. You know, the Latin American culture is one that prides itself on family values and friendships above all else. For those of you that went to China, we learned about the nuances of different cultures. We also spent a lot of time on the concept of guangxi. Regardless of what you call it, guangxi has existed in Latin America probably since the inception of time. And I've learned to appreciate this ideal throughout the interactions with my classmates. So you're probably wondering what we learned in these 2 years. So we had a variety of topics, a variety of courses spanning many topics. We had accounting classes, leadership classes, classes on finance and econ, operational management and strategy. We attended a suite of marketing classes. We learned that every marketing class is about the letter P. There's a bunch of P's, everything. If you don't know the answer, it starts with the letter P. But Mr. Pizarro had 3 P's, we have 4 P's. We have a bunch of C's, STPs, and throughput. Concepts like price competition, reaction functions, crises, negotiations, innovations were drilled into